The story starts by introducing the Yuzuki brothers, Hayato, Mikoto, Bakudo, and the main character, Minato. Hayato, the oldest, tells his brothers to finish eating quickly because they're running late for school. Minato reveals that their parents passed away years ago, and they've struggled to make ends meet since then. Even though they've adapted to life without parents, Minato still feels dissatisfied. Hayato considers letting Minato help with laundry, but asks him to take Gakudo to school instead. On the way, they meet their neighbors, Waka and Yuta. Yuta is Minato's friend, and they realize they forgot to do their math homework. At school, they end up copying their friend Nikaido's homework to avoid trouble. Mikoto gives Minato his gym clothes and heads to school. Minato explains that he and Mikoto are in the same grade, with only 11 months between them. Despite this, Minato feels that Hayato relies more on Mikoto and sees Minato as a child. Hayato at work confesses the difficulty of taking care of his siblings and handling work simultaneously. Despite the challenges, he vows to care for his brothers like their parents did for him. Hayato's friends offer assistance if needed. Minato notices Hayato working late and takes the initiative to cook breakfast for everyone. However, Hayato is upset about the mess and scolds Minato, leading to Minato leaving the room upset. After Yuta refuses to go to the arcade, Minato sees Gakudo interested in a flyer for the Hashinuka Fireworks Festival. Gakudo expresses a desire to experience the fireworks, and Minato promises to take him, even though Gakudo prefers Hayato. Minato convinces Gakudo to keep it a secret and hopes that fulfilling this wish will earn him admiration. They enjoy activities at the festival, but Minato loses sight of Gakudo. Hayato returns home and learns about Gakudo and Minato at the festival, causing him to panic. During the tram ride, Mikoto explains Minato's behavior to Hayato. Minato frantically searches for Gakudo, feeling guilty. Eventually, they reunite, and as they watch the fireworks, Gakudo thanks Minato. Hayato suggests attending the event as a family next year, and asks Minato to help with laundry duty. The next day, Mikoto guides Minato on how to handle laundry properly, and the boys share a meal together. Nikaido wonders why Minato doesn't call Mikoto his big brother. Minato thinks it shouldn't matter, even though Mikoto was born 11 months earlier. Yuta invites Minato to lunch, but he forgot his lunch. Mikoto comes in and gives Minato his lunch. Nikaido invites Mikoto to join them, and he agrees. While Minato and Yuta play soccer, Nikaido asks Mikoto why he's kind to Minato when Minato isn't as kind in return. Mikoto thinks about it and admits he didn't like Minato much at first. We go back to when they were toddlers, and Mikoto recalls how Minato got more attention because he got sick a lot due to his small size. Hayato notices Mikoto's good grades, but Mikoto remembers a time when Minato got jealous and scribbled on his work. Their mom scolded Mikoto, and he wondered about his older brother's status. Hayato comforts Mikoto, but Minato hides a toy from him. Later, Mikoto confronts Minato about the toy, and they argue, resulting in Minato breaking it. Mikoto wants to tell their mom, but doesn't think she'll care. Mikoto yells at Minato, saying he wishes Minato was never born. He goes to the park, and Hayato finds him there. Mikoto tells Hayato about his problems and says he can't be Minato's older brother. Hayato suggests Minato might admire Mikoto and is trying to be like him. Mikoto returns home with Hayato, apologizes to Minato, and Minato apologizes for breaking the toy. Minato tries to fix it, surprising Mikoto. In the present, Mikoto tells Nikaido that he's kind to Minato because he's his little brother. He believes Minato's prickly behavior is his way of showing respect. The two friends reflect on this. Gakudo goes to the Kirishima house and plays a game with Kojiro Kirishima. Gakudo shares his concerns about the household. Yuta and Minato drop off their things, and Gakudo tells everyone that the Kirishima family feels like a second home to the Yuzuki family. We jump to a time after the Yuzuki brothers lost their parents. Hayato, Mikoto, and Minato think about Mr. Kirishima's opinions of them. Hayato reflects on this after dinner. Gakudo scolds Hayato for staying up late, and they both go to bed. The next day, Gakudo comes home early and sees Hayato isn't there. It seems Hayato is sleeping at work, making his co-workers curious. Gakudo thinks about how he can make Hayato's life easier. Meanwhile, we see flashbacks of people telling Hayato to send Gakudo away because they don't think he's responsible enough to take care of all his brothers alone. Mr. Kirishima notices Gakudo waiting outside and invites him into his house while they wait for Hayato. Kojiro introduces himself to Gakudo, and they watch a movie together. Gakudo enjoys the film, and Kojiro is surprised because he rarely sees his grandkids and didn't expect Okudo to like the movies. Kojiro shares why he's been keeping an eye on Hayato, Minato, Okudo, and Mikoto. He feels sorry that they lost their parents and wanted to find ways to connect with them. Gakudo and Kojiro talk about Gakudo's concerns about going to another kindergarten and Hayato's stresses. Gakudo wishes he could do more for his brother without being a burden because he's young. Kojiro advises Gakudo to focus on being young and not worry about adulthood for now. Hayato comes home, and Kojiro suggests that Gakudo stay at his place when he returns from kindergarten. Hayato hesitates, recalling the memory of people thinking he can't take care of his brothers. Gakudo convinces Hayato to let him visit Kojiro after kindergarten. Hayato visits Kojiro and accepts the offer. While playing Shaji with Kojiro, Gakudo mentions that Waka transferred to the same kindergarten as him, making Kojiro feel less lonely. The entire Kirishima and Yuzuki families come together to greet Kojiro and Gakudo. They wave goodbye to each other. Hayato goes to his high school reunion and asks the boys to behave well while he's away. He meets with friends Miyamoto, Moyan, and Yuzuki. They chat about a classmate named Sekiguchi, who's now a company president. Girls approach Hayato, asking about his job and personal life. Hayato is surprised by everyone's relationships and planned trips. Hayato shares about his life with his brothers, admitting it's tough with its ups and downs. This makes his friends leave for a while. While wandering, he overhears girls belittling him in the restroom. Hayato leaves the party and tells Mayan, who won't attend the after party. Baffled by the remarks, he wanders the streets. Saki drives by, offering to take Hayato for drinks. She comforts him and suggests he embrace his situation. Hayato talks about his parents and how they struggled until his father's books started selling. His mother wished she could have given him a better life. Hayato discusses this with Saki, saying it motivated him to fulfill his mother's wishes after their parents passed away. Despite pursuing his goals, Hayato admits he's not a fan of his current life after hearing his classmates' stories. He wishes for a life like theirs. Saki assures Hayato it's normal to feel that way and shares her own life struggles for comfort. Hayato thanks Saki for the advice and the drinks. At home, Mikoto, Minato, and Gakudo surprise him with a birthday party. They give him handwritten massage coupons, a new apron, and a delicious cake. Hayato reflects on Saki's advice about enjoying life's beautiful moments. Minato reminds him to use the massage coupons soon before they expire. Minato and Yuta ask Mikoto and Nikaido if they want to help build a fort. Nikaido refuses, finding it too childish. A boy asks Yuta to go outside with him, and Nikaido tells Minato and Mikoto that the boy wants to ask Yuta out, surprising them. Nikaido explains that Minato sees Yuta as a friend, but other boys see her for her feminine charm. Yuta returns, confirming Nikaido's suspicions. She plans to go on a date with the boy this weekend. Minato cheers for Yuta, saying she's becoming more grown-up than him. Instead of building the fort, Minato and Yuta hold a strategy meeting to prepare for her date. Gakudo and his friend observe them, and Gakudo suggests Minato call Hayato for advice. Minato calls Hayato, who gives attire tips for Yuta. After the call, Minato helps Yuta choose an outfit for her date. Hayato reminds Minato that he'll be alone more often since Yuta will spend more time with her boyfriend. Minato leaves the dinner table after realizing this. Minato catches a cold and misses school for a few days. Yuta gives Mikoto orange slices for Minato, hoping he'll feel better soon. After receiving the slices, Minato wonders how to protect his friendship with Yuta. Minato brings Nikaido and Mikoto to Yuta's date, planning to sabotage it to save their friendship. Nikaido thinks Minato is immature for doing this. The boy asking Yuta out is named Morita. They observe the pair, and Nikaido notices Minato struggling to sabotage the date. Nikaido shares advice about relationships, and Minato contemplates it. Overwhelmed, Nikaido suggests Minato ask Yuta out himself. Minato and Yuta look startled. Gakudo tells Hayato where Minato and Mikoto are. Meanwhile, Minato tells Nikaido and Mikoto he wants to be with Yuta forever. Minato asks Nikaido for his phone and looks up activities people do when dating. After checking, Minato tells Nikaido he doesn't want to do those things with Yuta. Nikaido suggests Minato let Mikoto marry Yuta, thinking it'll make Minato less jealous since they're family. Mikoto refuses, and Nikaido advises Minato to let it go. They return home, and Minato thinks about discussing his concerns with Yuta. At school, he notices they haven't talked as much. Nikaido suggests he approach Yuta as usual. Minato asks Yuta if she wants to walk home or build the secret fort. but she declines. Mikado and Makoto discuss Minato's sadness and offer to help build the fort, but Minato wants to do it alone. At the fort, Minato thinks about growing up and what the future holds for his relationship with Yuta. He wishes things could stay the same. Minato meets Saki, who says Yuta isn't in love, surprising him. He returns to the fort and finds Yuta. He asks why she's not with Marita, and Yuta reveals Marita belittled her for acting like a boy. She can't explain why it made her feel empty. Minato explains her feelings and encourages her to be herself. Yuta decides to continue building the fort with Minato and tells him she broke up with Marita. They, along with Nikaido and Mikoto, build the fort together. As Yuta and Minato laugh, Nikaido comments on their joy. He finds it strange how a boy and a girl can be so close and asks Mikoto if Yuta and Minato have always been this close. Mikoto hints that it hasn't always been the case. Mikoto remembers when Yuta and her family moved into the neighborhood, right after they lost their parents. The boys meet Yuta and her family, but Yuta doesn't seem interested in Minato or Mikoto. Minato and Gakudo want to be friends with Yuta and Waka, but Mikoto is unsure. We see a montage of Minato trying to be great friends with Yuta. Mikoto suggests being friends with Minato instead, but Minato isn't interested. Minato meets Yuta again, and she helps him avoid stepping on dog poop. Minato thinks Yuta is great, but Yuta says she won't stay in the city for long, so there's no point in becoming friends. At dinner, Waka asks Saki when he'll see his father again. Saki says soon, but Yuta knows they won't see their dad again if they stay in this city. Saki and Hayato talk in the morning, and Hayato invites her for cookies. During this, Saki reveals Yuta hasn't been herself since Saki and her husband divorced. Saki admits she split from her husband because he kept having affairs. Yuta sees Saki's actions as a reason not to make friends. Minato overhears and runs away after Seki mentions his deceased mother. Hayato shares his thoughts with Saki, saying 10-year-olds are smarter than people think. He hopes Yuta will find happiness and be as cheerful as Minato. Minato rushes to the park and tells Yuta to respect Saki more. They fight for a while, and Yuta reveals her issues with her mother changing their names and not letting her see her father. Minato tells Yuta to talk one-on-one with her mother and be grateful for having a mother. They discuss Minato's reasons for being positive despite losing his parents. Yuta plans to talk to Saki and asks about her father. Saki tells the truth, and Yuta recalls times traveling with her father and his female companions. Yuta asks Minato to become close friends, and he agrees. The next day, Minato learns Yuta is a girl, but it doesn't matter to him. In the present, Makoto says they've been best buddies since then, but he insists that his friendship with Minato is still better. Nikaido sarcastically agrees with Makoto. The Uzuki brothers are having dinner. Gakudo is having trouble with his homework. Makoto offers to help Gakudo, and Hayato wants to film the incident. Gakudo declines his brother's offer, saying he wants to solve his problem on his own. Gakudo reveals he has a secret that no one must know about. Earlier that day, Gakudo's teacher gave everyone a parent-teacher visitation request form to show to their families. Gakudo visits Mr. Kojiro and Waka at their home. Some men arrive asking Mr. Kojiro for help. He asks Gakudo and Waka to watch the house for him. Waka and Gakudo play with Waka's trains, and Waka realizes something is bothering Gakudo. Gakudo refuses to talk about his issues, making Waka cry. Gakudo shares his concerns about the visitation form with Waka. He doesn't want to waste Hayato's time with his problems. Waka promises to keep Gakudo's concerns a secret from Hayato. He vows not to show his mother the request form, thinking Hayato might discover the truth that way too. Mr. Kojiro enters the room and reveals he heard their conversation. He offers to fill in for Hayato and Saki, putting Gakudo and Waka's minds at ease. We return to the Uzuki brothers eating dinner again. Minato reveals he knows about Gakudo's plan, causing Gakudo to panic. In the past, Minato and Yuta eavesdrop on Gakudo and his friend's conversation. They rush out of the house and discuss the matter in the park. Yuta argues it's best to ignore the situation out of respect for her grandfather, Gakudo, and Waka. At home, Minato reflects on his first parent/teacher class visitation day experience. He recalls his mother briefly visiting before leaving to see Mikoto and his teacher. Gakudo and Mikoto bathe together. Mikoto asks Gakudo about his homework issue, and Gakudo tells him he figured it out. Mikoto reminds Gakudo that it's okay to rely on his brothers when he needs help. Minato realizes that Gakudo wants Hayato to attend his visitation day event, but is too scared to talk to him about it. Hayato talks with Mr. Akiyama about a student struggling with world history. Mr. Akiyama offers to help, and we switch to Minato and Yuta discussing the Kudo's Visitation Day dilemma. Minato plans to attend the event even though they agreed not to get involved. He tells Yuta that he knows Gakudo wants Hayato to attend, but is too scared to ask. Yuta reflects on her Visitation Day experience with her mother and agrees to help. Minato shares his plan with her, asking her to cover for him when he skips class after the second period. After dinner, Visitation Day arrives. Minato leaves class after the second period, and Mikoto joins him, thinking Minato needs to use the restroom. Minato tells Mikoto he plans to skip class to attend Gakudo's event. Mikoto decides to go with Minato. They avoid suspicion and continue to Gakudo's school. Meanwhile, Minato and Mikoto's teacher sees Hayato in restroom and asks about his brothers. Hayato is unsure, and they mention Gakudo's Visitation Day, surprising him. Minato's teacher scolds Yuta for lying. Hayato rushes to Gakudo's school and meets Minato and Mikoto. Mr. Kojiro also arrives at the event. Minato, Mikoto, and Hayato enter the classroom, surprising Gakudo. Hayato tells Gakudo to focus on his teacher, and Gakudo tries his best. Everyone, including Yuta, meets to discuss the situation. Gakudo apologizes, but Mr. Kojiro reminds him he's partly to blame. Hayato's co-worker tells Gakudo it's okay to rely on his brother. Hayato, Mikoto, and Minato assure Gakudo they're important and can count on them for help. Saki apologizes to Waka for missing his Visitation Day. Mikoto and Minato talk about things at school. The narrator looks at the differences between Mikoto and Minato's characters. As the brothers head home, the narrator explains Mikoto's strong brotherly feelings. Gakudo welcomes his brothers when they get home, and Minato shows him a lot of love. We go into a flashback with Hayato, Mikoto, and Minato. Minato wants their mom, but Hayato says Minato should relax not to disturb their dad. Hayato promises Minato their mom will be home soon. Minato keeps crying, so Mikoto draws his favorite Power Ranger to make him feel better. Minato says he can draw better, and they exchange drawings. The narrator tells us how Mikoto's praise helped Minato feel better. Unfortunately, Minato asks when their mom will be home. Mikoto reminds him she's having their little brother. Minato asks what a little brother is. Later, their mom comes home with Gakudo. Minato is surprised at first, but with help from Mikoto, he learns to appreciate Gakudo. Minato spends time with Gakudo, feeding and playing with him. Their mom praises Minato for being the caring older brother. While Minato is busy, Mikoto invites him to play outside, but Minato declines. Hayato offers to play with Mikoto, but Mikoto wants to play alone. Mikoto goes to a park and wishes Minato spent more time with him instead of Gakudo. While helping Minato's brother dry off, Minato tells Mikoto he lied about Gakudo being like him. Minato finds Gakudo cute and doesn't think he'll do anything to make him mad. Minato falls asleep, and Mikoto is surprised by Minato's interest in Gakudo. In the present, the narrator explains how Minato's interest in Gakudo hasn't changed, and Mikoto is jealous of their relationship today. Gakudo suggests Minato help Hayato with the fried pork chops. Mikoto and Gakudo talk about their relationship with Minato for a bit. Hayato approaches Mikoto and asks if he can help with the fried pork chops. Yuta, Waka, and the Uzuki brothers walk together. Yuta and Waka are happy because they're going on a hot spring resort trip with their mom, Saki, soon. Minato tells Hayato about this at home. Hayato sneezes and Minato says he may be sick, scaring Hayato. Minato, Gakudo, and Mikoto wake up and learn Hayato hasn't gotten up and hasn't made breakfast yet. They go to his room and find out he's asleep. Minato makes fun of Hayato for oversleeping. Mikoto tells him to stop, and they learn Hayato's sick. Hayato wants to do his duties as usual, but Minato suggests he stays in bed to recover. The boys go outside and wish Yuta and her family a great trip. Then, the boys make breakfast for Hayato and bring it to him. Hayato wants to do chores as soon as he gets better. The boys offer to help but suggest he gives them most of the chores to avoid him getting worse. Hayato praises the boys for their maturity in the matter. Mikoto, Gakudo, and Minato discuss who should take Hayato to the hospital and who should do the chores. After thinking about it, Mikoto suggests that he and Gakudo handle the chores while Minato focuses on taking Hayato to the hospital. Minato takes Hayato to the hospital, and the doctor gives him fever-reducing medicine. Minato asks the doctor for caretaking tips and writes them down. They return home, and the boys monitor Hayato's progress. While Hayato is asleep, they go to the store to buy more supplies. Unfortunately, Hayato doesn't recover quickly. The boys start worrying. Minato is afraid Hayato could die and thinks about their time together. He calls Saki and tells her about Hayato's illness. Saki and the others return, and the boys bring Hayato outside to show her what's wrong. Saki plans to take Hayato to the doctor and leads her father with the kids. In their home, Minato apologizes to Saki for ruining their family trip. Mr. Kojiro tells Minato that it's okay to ask for help. Later, Saki returns with Hayato and says his fever reduced after getting an IV. However, she tells the boys she'll stay to help with Hayato. After checking on Hayato, Saki sees Minato sleeping next to his health guide. Later, Minato tells the audience about Hayato's recovery. He explains Mikoto and Saki caught the cold next, but Mikoto recovered a day later. Minato eats something the doctor gave him. Mikudo shows his brothers a new diary he got at the community festival. He wants to write something in it, but doesn't have any ideas. Mikoto tells Gakudo he can write about anything in his diary. Gakudo thanks Mikoto and starts writing a story about Hayato at night. In the story, Hayato arrives and talks to Bakudo about wanting to try a steamed mackerel dish. Bakudo apologizes to Hayato because he said he left work early to fulfill Bakudo's request. While they talk, Minato arrives and asks Hayato why he has steamed mackerel in his bag. Hayato tells Minato he plans to make it for dinner, making Minato upset because he wants hamburgers. However, Minato changes his mind when Hayato says Gakudo wants steamed mackerel. In the present, Gakudo notes in his diary what he learned from this event. Gakudo goes to bed and thinks about writing in his diary. The next day, Gakudo writes about Mikoto tutoring Minato. The two brothers argue because Minato says he doesn't need Mikoto's help. Gakudo analyzes his brothers and is jealous of their close connection. Hayato tells Minato to appreciate Mikoto for helping him. While they argue, Gakudo reflects on Hayato's character. He goes to sleep, wondering how Hayato feels about them. The next day, Gakudo asks Hayato how he felt when Gakudo, Mikoto, and Minato were born. Hayato says everything felt wild before Mikoto's birth, but he was glad when Mikoto was born. Now Hayato feels like a grandparent because he spoils Minato, Mikoto, and Gakudo. Gakudo goes to bed, curious about how Mikoto and Minato feel about him. The following day, Gakudo reads a magazine while Minato watches them. Minato thinks Gakudo is like an angel, and Gakudo is honored. Mikoto arrives and tells Gakudo he sees him as a younger brother and a rival. Gakudo is honored and thanks Mikoto. After writing down the day's lesson, Hayato enters Gakudo's room and reminds him they'll be traveling after breakfast tomorrow. In the morning, Gakudo and his brothers visit their parents' grave, and Gakudo details how they honor them. Minato tells Gakudo about a rainbow in the sky. All four brothers admire its beauty with tears in their eyes. Hayato suggests they have a picnic, a fine story for Gakudo's diary. While leaving, Gakudo says he's okay not having his parents because Mikoto, Minato, and Hayato look out for him. The next day, Minato gives Gakudo a shared diary. He wants Gakudo to write in it since Minato can't look inside his personal diary. Mikoto and Hayato ask if they can write in the diary too. The season ends with Gakudo suggesting they turn it into a family diary.